This is true wealth. True wealth begins in our hearts. It begins with how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. Hi, following from the last one, I'm not going to go into the higher functions just yet. I thought I would begin first of all with the concept of as above, so below, and as what's inside us is reflected outside of us. It is quite a central concept as part of our developing awareness. Okay, so what do I mean by this, right? You could think of the universe as a fractal. A fractal, this is a computer image where as the image expands, you find that little bits of the image are the same as the whole image. And if you keep going in, then that little image that becomes a big image, within it there's another little bit which becomes another image, and it's just like the original. So human beings, we are literally built as a reflection of the universe, as a reflection of the galaxies. Everything, if you look into the human body, as you keep going in, you can see the similarities into how we are no different from a galaxy as you go down into towards the molecular level. But I don't want to dwell into that. That's not where I'm at. The way that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we experience emotions, or the way that we do none of those things because we're totally split up, separated, divorced within ourselves, all of that becomes reflected in the world. And we appear to be victims in the world. Things happen to us. And clearly it's not quite true. Things don't just happen to us, we are part of it. And it begins with as inside, so the outside. So if I am full of negativity, if I am full of criticisms, then that colors my perception of the world. And that means that I behave in certain ways in the world which are to do with those particular programs or emotional states. And other people will react to those mental programs or emotional states. And so my internal world becomes reflected externally. When I was a young lad, my first few relationships, they were a complete and utter disaster. Because what I found were people who reflected my own internal psyche, my suppressed emotions, my belief systems, my limiting belief systems, they all became related in the people that became attracted to me and that I became attracted to. Usually they would have qualities that were lacking in me and I desired, and vice versa, except that they were too much. It was too much, and after a little while, the relationship falls apart, because what I liked in them is also what I hated in myself at one level. And so we do that. So my external world is a reflection of my internal world. Now, this has tremendous implications at the individual level and at the collective level, because as human beings we've got the surface consciousness, whatever's on the surface, then we've got the subconscious, which is all the bits we're not acknowledging and we're not in contact with, and then we've got the unconscious, the collective unconscious, and we partake of that collective unconscious. What I mean by this is that all our belief systems and our intensity of emotions which may happen within us, which may not be expressed, all of that collectively, we come together. So like, for example, the madness of war. People go to war. People hate another race, another culture. We have collective perceptions, and this can be manipulated. In fact, they are manipulated in the external world. Politicians play on that, on those weaknesses within humanity. So our internal world becomes reflected externally, and this will become reflected in terms of religion, politics, in terms of what we eat, our diets. So I, as an individual, I've got limiting belief systems, and I see myself as horrible in one way or another. And I then choose foods which are going to be bad for me. I don't know this, but I believe what they tell me, because I'm not a self-critical person. I'm not critical of the thoughts in my head, because I've picked them up from other people, from our culture, and I just believe it. I believe it. So, oh yeah, that's good for me. And I eat these things which will make me physically ill in time. And eventually the years go by and I am physically ill and I don't know what's going on. So then I go to someone who will give me prescriptions of whatever sort. And guess what? Because I'm not dealing with the cause, I'm now dealing with symptoms, and I get even more ill because the causes are not being addressed. And I have no idea what's going on, because internally I'm a confused mess of negativity and unexpressed emotions and unresolved belief systems which I haven't processed. So we reflect our internal world externally. And it is really, as part of self-awareness, as part of the process of self-development awareness, it is really important to observe this in ourselves, to observe this in others, and to take it on board. That I am in a constant process of creating the world around me. If I am fearful that people are going to steal from me, and I go and I have all manner of CCTV cameras and alarms and whatnot in my house, then maybe I shouldn't be saying this. Then I I am letting the world know that I have something worth stealing. So if I am a thief and I go around looking at this particular neighborhood, well, who am I going to steal from? It's going to be from the ones who are worth stealing. If I've got nothing showing, then it signifies I'm not worth stealing from. But if I'm full of alarms and whatnot, then, well, that's interesting. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I am fearful that people are going to steal from me, then I create that reality. It may sound silly, but there is truth in that. Because we are constantly emanating our emotions into the environment. We can't avoid it. People pick up on that. And it literally spreads into the collective unconscious at a minimal level perhaps, but it's out there. And we're all communicating with each other all the time at a psychic level. We don't appreciate it. We see ourselves as being alone in our egocentric state. That's why we're so fearful and so desperate to be loved, etc. But we're constantly sharing information with our environment. We truly are not separate, we're not alone. And this cuts both ways. We can either project our fears into the environment, or we can project our love. One of the things over the last 30 odd years plus is this whole question of abundance. People have become obsessed with the idea of abundance, that if I think I'm rich, I'll become rich. And there is some truth to that, okay, there is some truth to that. But it is not true if I just tell myself that's what it is. I have to live the experience. I have to be what I wish to become. So if I wish to become wealthy, I have to be connected emotionally with the experience of wealth. I have to have programs in my head that justify the experience that I am wealthy. But being wealthy in a monetary sense in this physical world, although I don't want to poo-poo it, there is a certain freedom that comes with wealth. So I'm not going to poo-poo it. It has its value. Okay, it has its value. But the true wealth is the wealth of feeling, is the wealth of love, is the wealth that comes from loving. And so true wealth is when we love ourselves. And when we love ourselves truly, for real, then we find that we meet people who reflect our self-love. And then we find ourselves in relationships where we love them because we see them. When we're lost in our heads, as I was saying before, we don't see reality. But when we see another human being, we see them. We see their foibles, their weaknesses, and that's okay. Nobody's perfect. We all have problems. Nobody's perfect on this earth. But our compassion comes to the fore. We don't judge them for who they are. We enjoy the good qualities within them. And so, as our internal world fills with light and the darkness dissipates, we find ourselves surrounded by other people who are also filled with this light. As inside, so outside. The world gets repeated externally. As we fill ourselves with love, true love, acceptance, real acceptance of who we are, we find ourselves eating the good food. Not the food they tell us is good, because I tell you, all of that is nonsense. But we find ourselves eating real food. The food that is real for us, for the human being, for the way we're made, the way we're built. And we find ourselves taking care of ourselves because we love ourselves. And so the world changes. And because we love ourselves, because we truly care of ourselves, then we find ourselves living in beautiful nature. Because the world around us, our immediate environment, reflects our internal love. It reflects where we're at. This is true wealth. True wealth begins in our hearts. It begins with how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And then it emanates from inside us to our environment. And yes, money does come our way. But we're not chasing money. We're focusing on love, real love. As inside, so outside. If your environment sucks, if your world sucks, look inside. Time to sort out who you are. Time to come home to yourself, to your heart. You're going to have to work at this, and yet this is where you need to come. And you need to come to this place because this is the only way out of this planet. Like I said in the first recent video, the aliens, they're there waiting for us. For those of you who will be ready in 21 years' time. And you need to be able to connect with your heart. Because as inside, so outside. That's true for the aliens, it's true for us. As we fill with light internally, the light gets reflected externally, and the external world changes for us. And the more of us who do this, the more of us who connect with our hearts, who feel, who have this light inside us to share with the rest of humanity, the more of us who come together in this way, the more it gets spread, the easier it becomes to spread. And so the more of you who will leave this planet for a better place. A place that will reflect the new reality within you. So I'll stop it there. And, again, I need to keep saying this because I hope that those of you who listen to what I share will give a like, keep giving a like, so that what I'm sharing will become promoted and more people will look at it and listen to what I say. I'm not the only one who says these things, I'm sure of that. But what I do share with you, I don't share from what other people have told me. This is my lived experiences. I speak from my heart. Bye for now.